Good morning, morning, mamas. This is Deb, I'm a professional home educator, and we are with Yolanda Newton today. And she's one of my new friends. She
Yep.
came to talk to us today. We're going to talk about finding your. Let's see. See, I always butcher it. I have to look. I'm old, people. Finding your magic hours, how to make the most of your natural peak hours, which is awesome. It's important.
Yes.
I don't know if I've ever said this to you, Yolanda, but I have adrenal fatigue. And so those natural peak
Uh-huh.
hours are important
Yep.
to find where your body's working the best, where your mind's working
Yes.
the best. And she's going
Ah,
to walk us through this today.
yeah.
And she is one of our mamas. She's in the group. So if you have questions, you can tag her. You can ask here and I can pass it. You can see them too, right? I thought
Yes, I think so.
you can
Yeah.
see them too. We can answer questions here, or if you come back later, you can tag her and she'll answer questions.
I sure will. I sure will. Yay! Well, I definitely understand and agree with kind of having those natural things with our body. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons this is one that kind of means something to me because
Yeah,
I think that's one of the biggest things that I battled was I couldn't get things done and accomplished because I literally was just too tired. It wasn't
mhm,
ability,
yeah.
it wasn't even really necessarily time. It was the fact that it just wasn't happening. All
And I
right.
think mamas are really, really big about not taking care of their bodies and
Mm-hmm.
their adrenals.
Not at
And
all. We put
I
it
mean,
off to the end.
yeah. So I'm gonna share your screen.
Yay, they get to see it. Yeah, we
Yay!
put ourselves in the back corner a lot of times, and we don't consider that there are things that we're doing that's actually probably just making our life a little bit more
Mhm.
difficult than it needs to be. So this is one of those topics that I did the research and looked at and implemented
Yeah,
myself because I needed to. And this quote, I love this. It says, "Time is what we want the most, but what we use worst." And that's
yeah,
the truth. We always want more time, but we tend to not use the time necessarily that we have necessarily the most productively. And it doesn't mean that we're not working because all of us who are here are probably exhausted at the end of the day. It's not
yeah,
that we're not working, but sometimes it's what are we doing with the energy that we have? Are we using it in its wisest way? Which is what this is about.
mhm,
So here's mine. Do you find yourself working at night? Whether you are working at, your kids working, schooling, whether it's you working a job or cleaning or anything like that. Okay. Are you a night owl? Or are you one of those annoying morning people? And I say that because I am not I am not a morning person, but I have people who are in my life, which we're going to talk about, who definitely are morning people. And it's kind of having that acknowledgement of it, you have to kind of look and see what's your pattern of who you are, and where your energy lies during the day. Okay. So, our question is, how can you make sure that you have enough time to do the things that you need to do? Most of us wear multiple hats. If we're in this group, we automatically are wearing 3 or 4 hats guaranteed. We're educators, of course, because that's something we all have in common. We have other duties, households, things we have to take care of. You're more than just an educator. You're a caregiver to someone in some way, in some capacity. A lot of us have work, either whether we have a business of our own or go and have a job or something outside. We wear so many hats, but we still only have the same 24 hours to get it all done. And it's possible, we know it's possible because we see people who are successfully doing it. And if they are, then their peak energy hours is definitely something they've considered if they're handling it all correct. Because the truth is, home educators, we have even more because we have that added layer of making sure that we spend the time that we need to with our kids, with our young people who are in our lives to make sure that they're learning. I mean, we're talking about balancing everything from the actual sit down work with them time to, oh, let me prepare this. Let me get everything done. And I love this picture because this mom's awesome. She's got one, and then there's the little baby, because sometimes we forget there are other ones on hand too. And their little energy batteries are a whole nother situation and scenario, which I know from personal experience. So we have to kind of take the uniqueness of this, and that's what this is about, is applying this to the unique situations of home educators, because there is in fact a little bit of magic we can do. There's some magic hours that we have during the day that we can make the most of those before those hours disappear. We can make the most of those so we can do our best. So what we're going to cover briefly, we're going to look at the science, okay, because I'm very scientific. Okay, we're going to look at the science. We're going to look at the reality too, because all that science is nice. And then when we're done, you go, okay, but what does that mean for me? Okay, I'm going to show you how to figure out your magic hours and then give you some practical suggestions, because what's the point in any of this if it's not usable once we're done, right?
Yeah.
So, first, let's look at the science, okay? We probably all heard of our circadian rhythm. And essentially, what that is that our bodies have a natural internal clock that you really can't fight. Okay. It works within your body, whether you want to or not, to naturally help you want to go to sleep, want to wake up. And it's like I put the wave, because the wave, how the wave goes in and comes out, that's our energy level. And it's quite natural. If you're eating well, eating healthy, if you're getting sleep, you're going to have a natural energy flow where you're going to have times when there's more energy and times when there's less. And that's actually connected to your circadian rhythm. It's pretty normal. Do know that there are things that can interrupt, of course, the circadian rhythm. If you are, this is reality, if you are dealing with depression or any kinds of other anxieties, something stressful in your life, yeah, that stuff is going to throw that rhythm off. And when that happens, you're going to find a shift in your energy level as well. We all know that. I mean, I can say from personal experience, when it's a bad time for me, that's when I have less energy. All of this is tied together. It's biology. Okay. And because it's biology, it's not really something we can fight. We can work with it. The science tells us that adults perform best during the late mornings. Okay. Now, that's not, everyone's going to be a little bit different. I'm not saying this is absolutely everybody, but the science says that most adults are going to find that their energy starts to go up later in the morning and kind of builds and builds and builds throughout the day. Okay, to the late or early afternoon. Then there is going to be a dip. Okay, right around lunchtime. And if you're like me, you know, after you eat lunch, you're like, I need a little bit of time, or I need a nap. That's the natural kind of rhythm. And then you'll see another kind of small uptake in your energy level after that. This is completely normal for adults to have that peak energy level kind of in the late morning. Okay. For teenagers, it's actually, unfortunately, because they gotta be that way. They gotta be opposite, right? they gotta be opposite. Teenagers tend to have more energy later in the evening hours. Okay. So teenagers, where you're up high energy, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the morning, that's when they're looking at you. You're like, good morning.
Yep.
And when you're going, okay, let's wind down for the day, they're like, no, let's put on, Fortnite and play at like 6, 7 o'clock. You're like, where's that energy coming from? That's because that's part of their natural flow. Their peaks for creativity, for mental capacity tends to happen towards the evenings and the nighttime. Okay, that's the normal pattern for a teenager. Younger kids tend to be about 2 hours behind the adults, which means that you're going to see your kids. When do they usually start driving you crazy? If you think about it, mine is usually after lunch, because they're about 2 hours after me. So I kind of started peaking at, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock and here they come after lunch when I'm going, whoo, here they come with the spinning and the energy, because that's their natural kind of peak of when they come up. Okay. They come up with their peak energy About 2 hours after. It just takes them a little bit longer scientifically for them to start moving and get their energy up for them to move forward. So let's just boil this down to the basics, okay? Most people are going to get their energy peak in the mid morning, in the afternoon. Yes, we know our teenagers tend to be later, but even the teenagers, their energy level starts to pick up in the afternoon to start moving towards their high energy level in the evening. So that means, right, are we waking up in the morning scientifically? If we can avoid it, are we waking up in the morning and going, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. Good morning, everybody. Let's sit down and do algebra. That might be a problem. Okay. And it might be a problem that you're setting yourself up for and the kids because you're not really ready to do that. And perhaps they mentally aren't either because the energy level isn't there. So let's talk about the reality. Okay. Schooling is a part of our lives. It's not our life itself at all. Okay. We don't live in a bubble. So when we talk about our energy levels and things, I am not going to talk to you and say, oh, let's make all of our decisions about what we do and when solely based on the kids' academic life, because that's not true. We need to consider, yes, them and their age, okay? But we need to consider other things, their attention span, because just because the peak hours are 3 hours during a day doesn't mean that your 7-year-old can sit down for 3 hours and do anything, because that's not going to be reality. Medical needs, where we talked about, which is part of why this went with me. I medically am not going to be able to sustain long periods of energy. Okay. There's a medical thing with that for me. If you have some sort of medical need, you need to take that into consideration. Take into consideration even things like if your kid has ADHD, okay, that high energy level. Don't get it kind of confused and go, well, they have ADHD, they have high energy levels all the time. The high energy levels also go with mental capacity to focus. So they have prime times with that. Consider that. Don't just look at the physical energy. Think about the mental energy that it's going to take. Think about the structure of your lessons. Sometimes you perhaps might have your kids enrolled in something where the teacher or the co-op instructor or whoever says, we're doing it Tuesday at 3 o'clock. You don't really have too much choice about that. So you do need to consider things like that. If you work, or if you have a work or a sleep schedule, you need to consider that. Do you work at night? If you work at night, that's going to affect some of the decisions that you make and your peak energy hours. Okay. And other responsibilities. Are you a caregiver? Do you have other people you have to take care of? Do you have a household you have to take care of? If you're like me, we do like little mini homesteading. So I sometimes I have to get up and get in that yard because sometimes that's the food we eat. So I have to get up and take care of that. And those are considerations. But at the end of the day, just a reminder, your schedule, you are the boss. You're in charge. And I think sometimes that is something that, especially new home educators, forget. We kind of want to go, oh, what time did they start during the school day? We need to mirror that. No, we don't. Or, hey, the kids are in school right now, so my kids should be doing schooling during these hours. Says who? You're the boss of your hours. You're the boss of your schedule. You're the one who gets to say, what is the best time for us to do what we need to do? I get to make that decision. I get to collaborate with the people who are within this environment to make the best schedule for us. I'm in charge. I don't need to look at society and what society says and what society dictates to say when we should be working. No. When's the best time for us to get it done? You're in charge. Okay. So the first thing we need to do, of course, is figure out what those magic hours are, right? So with our magic hours, everybody, first of all, remember everyone's biological clock is different. Okay. There are going to be people who are morning people, people who are night people, who have more energy at different points during the day. And it's okay. Your teenagers biological clock probably has them with an energy level at a different time than you. Okay. Your young child is going to be at a different time than you. If you have a baby or infant, you know good and well they have their own time schedule. Okay? They have their own time schedule. You have to acknowledge that. Don't try to fight it. You're not really going to be able to change someone's biological rhythm. Okay? And also remember that the world isn't ideal. You can plan all you want, but the day that you have during these peak hours, that's when I'm going to get this done. That might also be when the pipe breaks in the bathroom and you have to call the plumber. Things like that happen. So just be prepared, okay? And be flexible, because the magic is in actually just not fighting the biology of yourself and your student. That's the magic. Okay? I'm not magically helping you make more hours. You only get 24. I can't give you any more. If I could, I would. But this is about using what we have. That's where the magic happens. So to do this, two ways. Okay. First, our first step is we want to figure out what our energy patterns
Yeah.
are for yourself and your student. Make sure I know yourself and your learner. Don't just look at when their peak hours are. Okay. Because you're involved in their learning process too. Don't just think about yourself and forget that they're involved in the learning process too. You want to look at both and you want to plan accordingly. Okay. So let's figure it out. Here's the easy way. The easy way is to look at the natural time that you fall asleep and you wake up. Okay. During that, and when I say the natural time, both of these are going to talk about the natural time. That means not the time that you set your alarm and your alarm goes off. The time that if your body would naturally allow you to wake up, what time would you get up? Okay. After that point, you're going to kind of push your hours from there about 3 hours in, and that's when you're going to start seeing a rise in energy. Now, this sounds crazy, but I guarantee if you think, those of you who have teenagers, if you let your teenagers sleep until they wanted to get up, that means they went to sleep when they wanted to go to sleep and they woke up when they wanted to wake up, you probably wouldn't see them until close to lunchtime. Then they start to move and they start to wake up, and the energy, that's their natural pattern. Side note, that's why kids go to high school at 8 o'clock in the morning and fail geometry
Yeah.
and trigonometry. It's not that they can't get it sometimes. It's literally, I am not awake yet, because that's the natural rhythm. So you can look at that and kind of push that to do the easy way. Totally fine. You will totally find your natural rhythm. If you're sitting here, you probably already know, yeah, you know what? If you let me sleep in on Sunday, tomorrow, I probably would wake up around 9, or I'd wake up around 10, or some people, I wake up at 6, no matter what, in the morning. Some people, they can do that. They can find their natural energy. The second one is a little bit more scientific. I'm going to show you guys that. And I will post this link down in the chat box for you guys later, but you can write it down, bit.ly calculate peak. Okay. And it's going to take you to a website that there was a guy who actually was very, very specific in how you can figure out your peaks. And he gives like a chart that you can download. It's all free. And I like this because you can make this a project, because that's what we do as home educators. Sometimes we go, oh, this looks like it's going to take a lot of time and energy. How can I incorporate this in? You can incorporate it in, make it part of your science, okay, to figure this out, okay? So with it, boiling it down, essentially what he tells you to do, and you will go to the website and you can get more specifics. The first thing he tells you to do is to cut out, I know, okay, just stay with me. I know. Cut out your caffeine. If you like to have a little glass of wine at night, you might have to cut that out during the experiment, okay? Or any other mood enhancers or depressants that you use, because remember, we're looking at your circadian rhythm, which is your natural energy peak and everything. Of course, you do this with, if you're on some sort of medication, you want to talk to a doctor or something, if you have to do that, or you might continue to take the medicine and just kind of pace it with that. But some of those extra mood enhancers, especially like coffee, yeah, I'm so sorry. You're going to have to stop that just for a minute. Okay? Because the coffee kind of gives you a short burst of natural energy that's not sustained. And
Mhm.
it's true. Okay. So we want to look at our natural energy. The second thing, you're going to wake up and fall asleep naturally without any alarm clocks. So do this during a time period where you're able to do that. You're going to record the time you wake up, and there's a form that's on the website that you can download for free. You're going to record the times that you wake up and you go to sleep and the times when you feel most energetic. Okay. So the kids can be the ones who are in charge of doing that. Set a little alarm throughout the day where it's their job to ask whoever you guys are charting and go, how do you feel? 10 out of 10. Awesome. How do you feel? Oh, like a 5. All right, a 5. That's okay. And you're going to actually be able to build a chart, which is there. Do it. You can do it consistently or off and on for about 3 weeks, and you'll see a pattern. And we say for about 3 weeks because you don't science, it needs to be repeatable in order for it to say that it's scientific. So when you have that, you're able to see patterns. Okay. You're able to say, oh, you know what? Around 11 o'clock, I start to get energetic, and I'm pretty energetic till about 1 or 2 o'clock. And you know what? My babies are getting energetic around, noon. So you know what our peak time is for us to do some stuff? Noon. 1 o'clock to do the hard stuff, to do the difficult stuff, because that's what you're going to end up doing. You're going to overlap the high energy time periods that you have with yourself and your learner to do all your mentally taxing work, okay, and your direct instruction periods during that time. The direct instruction periods is for you because if you're like me, that is when my brain has to be like, okay, let me help you out. We are doing multiplication. All right. Right. So that's when my brain is high active. And then for
Yeah.
my son, his high active time is the time when he's like, we're doing what? I have to learn something new. See, as much as possible, when we can overlap those
Yeah.
times, though, that's when the magic happens. I'm mentally here for you. You're mentally here for me. And we figured out the
Yeah.
best optimal times that that's going to happen. Okay. So that's where the magic comes in. I know myself, I know you, and I use that to plan. Okay. So this idea actually started coming to me when I started reading about Jeff Bezos, who's the CEO, like the richest man in the world, love him or hate him, in charge of Amazon. But the reason I like him is that this man does not own an alarm clock, even though he has Alexa waking you up at 8 o'clock in the morning. He doesn't use one. Okay. He doesn't use one. He also does not start his day with work. He starts his day with breakfast. He spends time with his kids. Then he goes to work and he starts his day with his most difficult tasks or the things that are the hardest for him mentally to do. Hard decisions, things like that. Because if you pay attention after he's woken up, spend time with his kids, eating his lunch or his breakfast, guess what? It's late morning, which is the peak energy time for most adults. His peak energy time is when he does his most taxing work. And as you look at his schedule throughout the day, he kind of takes a little bit of a dip after lunch where he kind of answers emails, things like that. And then before he goes home, he does a little bit more kind of taxing work. And then he's done. He finishes when he's out of energy. Not when the clock rings at 5. When he goes, okay, now I'm starting to be silly with the decisions I'm making. I'm done for today until tomorrow. Do we do the same thing with us and with our kids? Do we stop and go, okay, let's do this during our high energy times. Then we have a little bit of a lull. So let's make a decision about what we need to do here, whether it's academic or not. And then, oh, do we have a little bit more energy? What are we? Oh, you're tired? We're done, because that's when it stops being productive. So that's why I kind of always think about him. So let's look
Yeah.
quickly at some practical suggestions, right? For school, okay, this is adapted from a lot of these concepts were for people who are actually CEOs and people like that. And I'm applying it to homeschool. So I've tweaked them a little bit. Okay. We want to do our focused instructional time, introducing new concepts, all of our mentally taxing work during peak hours for the learner, for the adult. Okay. Our meetings, things like our virtual classrooms and things like that, you can do that when you're a little bit lower on energy. Why? Because even if you're sitting here right now and you're half awake, you're more engaged sitting here interacting. If
Yeah.
you're going out to a co-op or something like that, they pull the energy out of you. They get you where you need to be. They pull you up to where you need to be. Okay. The high stress things, the most difficult things, the most difficult subjects that are still enjoyable for your student can be done towards the end, their second wave of energy. Why? Because the fact that it's difficult, they do need to have some energy. But the fact that they want to do it is what's going to push them through to do just a little bit more. So you have a kid that's going, man, I really want to learn American Sign Language. Learning a new language isn't easy. It takes some mental capability, some mental use. And if they're driven to do it, they'll push past just a little bit more with their energy level because it's something that they want to do. Okay. Remember, just like a roller coaster, just like a wave goes in and out, you have to take breaks. You shouldn't be looking at this information and thinking, oh, great, there's a 2-hour block of time where we're both high with energy. We're going to work for 2 hours. You may not be able to do that. Okay. You need to remember that students are actually more productive when they take breaks. And that's scientifically proven. So think about your kid's age. It might be some kids, it might be 10 minutes of sustained looking and paying attention, and then a little bit of a break. Some kids might be 20 minutes, 30 minutes. You know your kids. Even in the high energy time, you need to build in short kind of brain breaks for them. Okay. And don't forget, okay, all the other stuff, I'm so sorry, I can't make that stuff go away, that you have to do. Okay. Mentally draining things need to be done before your energy dips. So, like for me, if I have to make decisions about money, there are times of day that, you know what, I need to do this now and not later. Remember, as home educators, we don't live in isolation. So consider all of your other things, okay? Non-mentally draining tasks, I can do that later. I can do that after. So non-mentally draining tasks for me, I'm sitting washing, folding laundry, things like that. No, okay. I'm watching my show, got my Netflix on, no problem. Do not come and ask me about algebra right now. I cannot help you. Okay. There are time periods when we have more energy to do things, time periods when we have less. So consider your educational portion during the high points, but don't forget anything else you have that's mentally taxing. Okay. That you need to do. Those need to be done during your high energy points too. Okay. Because if not, you're just going to end up petered out, stressed out, and then you're not going to be any good for anybody. Okay. Whether it's teaching them, caring for them, or yourself. Okay. And last, don't forget, don't fight the flow. If you are sitting here and you are fighting, like, oh, I'm so tired. And I'm telling you, I did this. Oh, I'm so tired, but I said I was gonna start, we were gonna start class at 9. Stop it. Perhaps you shouldn't start at 9. Maybe you need to start at 11. And you might find that things kind of like this right here, they go a little bit better at 11 than they did at 9 if you just don't fight. Okay.
Yep.
We need to use our time most productively. That's the magic. Use the hours that you have productively. That's where the magic happens. All right. Well, thank you guys. I hope you guys
Yay!
enjoy. I hope you found something useful in there.
I found lots of stuff that were useful. So
Oh,
much good information.
good. Yeah, this is I learned a lot of that stuff the hard way. My first year, I was fighting against the energy levels. We were miserable. And now we start later and we do a
Yeah.
whole lot better. A whole lot
We
better.
yeah. I mean, I think most parents will start and they think they have to do a public school schedule, and you
Yeah,
don't. Let me just give you permission right now that you don't have to do that.
not at all.
And then, after I had my youngest, I developed adrenal fatigue. I really think it happened during pregnancy. I was I was 45,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it just exhausted my body. And I had to give myself permission to sleep. I was
Yes.
not sleeping. I was not taking naps with the baby like I did when my other ones were younger.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
my adrenals were just kaput. And so I had to give myself permission to sleep. So now the reason this workshop is at 11 is because that's best for me.
And look, it's
I
good
am
for me too. This is my high
Yes,
energy
this
time.
is my high energy time, and this is what I do a lot of things. Now, for me, my high energy is about 11, so I do Alicia's schoolwork at 11. Now, it'd
Hmm.
probably be better if I was going to work then, but I need her to be a priority. So, and
Yep.
we actually kind of coincide. She wakes up naturally about 9.
Isn't that
So,
beautiful?
yeah.
Oh, mine wake up and I'm still in bed and I hear from the baby. I hear maybe about 6 o'clock in the morning, I hear, ooh, he's in the bed singing. It's 6 a.m. I'm like, "Whoa."
That's how it was when my first four were together. They would wake up at the crack of dawn. The sun came up,
It's
they were up. I
energy.
was not ready.
Nope. Nope. And I used to wake up and I see some people, oh, thank you, Susan, thank you. And I see people and they're going, it's their first year. I'm going to tell you, my first year, I wanted to wake up and I was like, we're going to have breakfast. Then we're going to do school. There is
Yeah.
no anything else until we do school. We're doing school. And then after that, and now I've learned, now we wake up
Mhm.
and there's like a little bit of time. The boys play, they get their energy out. They kind of have a routine. I take my time. Nobody gets a lesson until after I've had my coffee. And that's kind of like my
Yeah.
self-care. I wake up naturally, I go with the flow, I do what I need to do in the morning. The first thing I do after I have my breakfast and my cup of coffee, then we will start afterwards.
Yeah.
Now I'm in a good place. He's burned off a little bit of his energy and he's able to mentally sit down.
Yeah.
It's a good
And
time
do
for him.
something. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, I have my 5-year-old. She's my youngest, and then I have teenagers. So
Mhm.
one of the best things I ever did, and mamas, I know you'll it was a rough first year because I was so so anal, and I started writing out a schedule, a checklist for my almost teens, and letting them pick when they did things. Now it was hard to switch
Mhm.
because I had been so controlling, and but what I learned is they learned to manage their time,
Yep.
and I begin to see their natural rhythms. And
Yep.
I have some that, they do just what I ask them to do every day. And then I have some who work ahead and they have like 3-day weekends.
Yep. But you know
And
what? That
they work when they're ready to work.
that is a skill that's kind of like, built in there quietly because for success, they kind of have to know themselves.
And
I mean,
that's how work is. When you go and work a job, they're going to give you something. They're not going to tell you what to do at what time.
no, they're not. They especially this new market and the way that it's going with jobs and stuff, they
Yeah,
are more likely to give you a project and a deadline and you figure out the best way to get it done.
get it done.
And if you know your energy levels and your rhythms, you'll be able to make wiser decisions instead of having that kind of concreted mentality of 9 to 5. That may not work for you.
Now, I will say, mamas, if you decide to do that in the beginning, you have to watch because, especially
Mhm.
if you have younger kids,
Oh, they'll make all kinds of decisions that are
Make
weird.
they make all yeah, and they make all sorts of mistakes because they have to learn, and that's okay. My
Mhm.
oldest decided to game and got behind in math, and I made him repeat one year with math, and that was very hard for me because I had not
Mhm.
ever done anything like that. But that's okay because he learned to get things done on time.
Exactly. I mean, I think it's hard for us, but in the end, it's easier, or I should say, better for them to learn that lesson in their way because that's not a mistake that he'll easily make again, and he can foresee
No, he
that
is
himself.
awesome. Yeah, he
Hmm.
graduated last year. He really is awesome.
That's awesome.
He's a
That's
cool
awesome.
kid.
Yes,
But
and
you can do it. You can do it, and it works. And
it
it was
does.
a good choice for us.
It was, and I really believe in this, when it comes to not fighting, kind of keep anything that kind of makes things less stressful. And
It's
and this
perfect.
really is, yeah, this is really one of those. And a lot of times we spend a lot of time considering the kids and we don't think about
Mhm.
ourselves. And we're part of this
Yes.
too. We can make this happen or we can break it from happening too
Yeah.
if we are fighting against ourselves. Because if we break down, those days when you're too tired to do anything because you've been pushing against your natural clock,
Yeah.
I mean, that's not good either. That's not going to
No,
give
and
you
it's
the
okay to
result
take
that
a
you want.
break and reset yourself,
Oh
mamas.
yeah. Oh yeah. We don't
Reset.
work every day. My sons, we work about 4 days a week. We do a 4-day week,
That's great.
and they enjoy, and that's it, because we need our break in between. So it works
Yeah,
perfectly for us.
that's good. Yeah. Okay, now so tell now because Yolanda's one of our new workshop leaders, so we're just meeting each other, becoming friends, and I love her spirit. So tell us a little bit more about what you do over
Uh,
in your stuff. Tell us
Education
a little bit
revolution.
more.
So
Yeah,
I help parents who need help with anything from portfolio evaluations to assessments if they need things like that. I teach online classes. So I have like a little program. I call it the Blue Apron of homeschooling because it's hybrid. Kids get hands-on things and then they get live
yeah,
lessons and stuff, and it takes them through. So it kind of helps the home educator where they don't have to plan from scratch, and they get, like, I would say a little
yeah,
bit more than Blue Apron, because it's like you have a little chef that pops out, like, hi, you have a live teacher that comes with all this stuff to help you kind of get through it. So we have that. And then one of my biggest passions is really soft skills, which is kind of where you hear me talk about things like natural rhythm and things
yes,
like that. So I have a series called where it is a journal series that's teaching students, or I call them the adults of tomorrow, the skills that they need to be successful. So the first one's called I'm Resilient, and it's all about teaching them how to be resilient. And, I kind of came up with that thought with looking at a lot of the young people who are in my life, including my son, and knowing the skills that they need to be successful. Those aren't skills that are always taught, and there isn't
no,
that
they're
much
not.
out there to teach them how to do it. And I'm like, as an adult and a businesswoman, I'm being told, there are all these like success books and things like that, and I'm like, why are we waiting until we're adults to do this? But there's nothing sort of
Yeah,
like this for the young people when we know what they are going to need. Why don't we just start
yeah,
teaching
teaching
them
it
now?
now.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's what that series is about. So like we have the I'm Resilient, and then afterwards there's one that's going I'm in control of myself, like self-control, things like that. Because like you said, with your son, he learned that lesson, you know,
yeah,
learning that lesson help him be successful in the future. That's, one of my passions is really teaching them the things that we know, the lessons that we see people who are successful, that they're telling us this is what it needs to be successful.
yeah,
Let's teach our kids this. Let's
yeah,
get our kids that reading, writing, math, science. I'm an educator. All that is important, but it means nothing if they don't have certain soft skills
exactly.
to be able to apply it.
Yeah, and you're right. That's good. Okay, so mamas, I will. Yolanda can post where you can find her stuff under
Yes,
the video. She'll post that so you can find her. She is one of our mamas. She's in the group.
yes, I am.
You can tag her and ask questions. I think we had some awesome information today.
Good. Well,
And
I'm
I'm gonna make
glad.
sure she comes back.
I will. Whenever you want me back, I will definitely be back. I enjoyed this. I really did.
Yeah, I had fun.
Yay!
Anyway, y'all have a good time, good day, good day, good day. Yeah, my
I know.
girls, my girls have had all sorts of projects while I've been on here, and I'm going to go see what they're doing because they keep looking at me with these big eyes,
Oh, I
like
know. Mine are outside.
waiting. Yeah, they do.
See what they're up
Mine,
to.
yeah, mine are allowed to come in as long as they're quiet and nobody is acting like they're dying.
Mine will get to that point where I can trust them that way soon. If not, you guys would have saw little heads pop up.
Well,
Like,
yeah, and now when we first started this, I would have little heads pop up and come through. And she was still nursing when I started, and she would come in, and I'm like, nobody ever knew she was here.
that's awesome. That's
Just
awesome.
one little head. But now she comes in, she goes, if I'm quiet, can I? She has little earphones. She'll put them on and play her iPad or whatever.
Oh, that's nice.
She's got other things to do, but she keeps coming with these eyes and looking at me like she wants to. And
Ready?
I know she's going to be 5 in August. She's so
Oh,
cute. She's my
that's
baby.
the best ages.
Yeah, they are. They're my favorite ages. That's how I started homeschooling. My son was 2, and it was just going to be for preschool, and then here I am 15 years later.
I know. I look,
Never ended.
mine are there. We're not going anywhere. I love it.
We're here. Okay. Well, y'all have a wonderful day, and we
Yeah.
will see you Tuesday. We got tips and tricks with me. And then next week, I cannot remember what we have next week, but we have something next Saturday. We always have something on Saturday. So have a wonderful day.
Yes. Bye, everyone.